Hey, Rich Stitzel here. Thanks so much for tuning in, and thanks for your interest in DrumMantra. The 6 elements of the DrumMantra practice system are time, reading, coordination, polymeters, phrasing, and groove. Today we're going to take a look at polymeters. There are a couple different ways to approach polymeters, but let me first define what a polymeter is. A polymeter is simply 2 different note groupings, at least 2 different note groupings, that share the same subdivision but have different numbers of notes in their grouping. For instance, a shared subdivision would be a 16th note, and one grouping would be 3 16th notes, in other words, a dotted 8th note. And another grouping could be 4 16th notes, in other words, a quarter note. So when you have a grouping of 3 16th notes played at the same time as you have a grouping of 4 16th notes, it takes 12 16th notes for the pattern or the cycle to resolve. Which means the 3-note grouping is a native polymeter to 3/4 time. 3/4 time has 3 quarter notes in it. 3 quarter notes is 12 16th notes. 3/4 time has 4 dotted 8th notes, which are 3-note groupings, in it as well. So 3 quarter notes takes up the same amount of space as 4 dotted 8th notes. That's the 3 to 4 polymetric relationship. That is a native polymeter in 3/4 time. A non-native polymeter in 3/4 time would be if a dotted 8th note were playing in a measure of 4/4. It does not resolve at the end of the bar. It takes 3 measures of 4/4 time for the polymeter to resolve. Therefore, that polymeter is in a non-native expression. We're just going to look at a native expression today, but there's plenty to do inside of a native expression that will definitely send you for a loop in your mind. We're going to be looking at rhythmic perception, rhythmic perspective. So we're going to look at the polymeter from 4 different perspectives today. So the way that this exercise is set up is we're going to be playing a field of 16th notes. The 16th notes happen to be in 3/4 time, so we're going to have 12 of them per measure, but there's a constant stream of 16th notes happening on the snare drum. We're going to accent in 3-note groupings. So we're going to be hand to hand, right, left, sticking. So a 3-note grouping would be right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, left. Every 3 notes means that the accent is moving from the right hand to the left hand back and forth. Because we're in 3/4 time, we know that this polymeter will resolve every 3 bars. And because we're in right, left sticking, we know that right, left is a quarter note. So we will always begin the downbeat of each beat with the right hand. Okay, now the second part of this exercise is the bass drum. Now I like to think of the bass drum in this exercise, I like to call it the pulse, and the hands will be playing the accents. So we're going to look at how the accents relate to the pulse. We're going to play this measure 16 times in a row. 16th notes on the snare drum, dotted 8th notes are the accent, every 3 16th notes, and quarter notes on the bass drum. So 16 bars total. Let's give it a try. Here we go. Okay, great. Now, you probably had a pretty strong perspective of that being in 3/4 time, which is what it was in. And the reason that it was easy to hear it in 3/4 and feel it in 3/4 is because the bass drum is playing quarter notes, and the very first accent of the hand pattern is happening on the downbeat. So right off the bat, the very first note of each measure is accent and pulse at the same time, which allows our mind to just organize it pretty directly into 3/4 time. So now in the second exercise, we're simply going to move the bass drum over 1/16 note to the E position. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a. The hands remain the same, playing the 3-note grouping starting on the downbeat. Now what's going to happen here is your perspective is going to change a little bit because your mind is looking for something that lines up the pulse and the accent. Where does that pulse and accent line up? And then the mind will start to construct what is going on. Okay? I'm not going to say any more until you do the exercise. So let's play this exercise 16 times through, and then afterwards I'll discuss a little further. Okay? Here we go. Okay, great. Now that could have been a little bit confusing, and it also could have been a little challenging coordination-wise. That's okay. That's true for everybody with this exercise. It takes some work to get it really dialed in and very comfortable. What's happening here is you probably got a sense that you were in 12/8 time instead of 3/4 time, where the pulse was more based on what the hands were doing than what the foot was doing. So even though we're in 3/4 time, just by virtue of moving the bass drum over 1/16th note, our mind recalculates everything and starts to hear that pattern as being in 12/8 time. And the reason is the bass drum is playing strong pulses, and the accents in the hands, they finally line up on the final E of beat 3, the final 3-note grouping. So the mind probably categorizes this into 12/8, hearing a big accent on beat 4. Boom, boom. And it hears the hands playing the downbeat pulse of each quarter note, or in 12/8 time, it's still a quarter note, but each quarter note is dotted, or 4/4 time as triplets. Not going to go there right now. So anyway, if this exercise felt strange, maybe go back and listen to it and try to understand what I'm saying, or go back and play it to understand what I'm saying. But what happens is the mind starts to shift based on what the pulse is doing. So let's move on to the third exercise. We're going to move the bass drum over one more 16th note to the and position. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. And you'll see that we kind of settle back into a 3/4 concept, because the and is a friendlier subdivision for most of us. We've played ands a whole lot more than we played e's. So let's go ahead and play the ands and see how that feels. Okay, 16 times through the measure, same sticking, same accent pattern with the hands. Bass drum is now on the and. Here we go. Great. Now you see what I mean by having a sense of being back in 3/4 time. We're a little bit more rooted in 3 because the bass drum is playing on the and. It plays nicely with the downbeat, and so we get back into a sense of 3. Not as strong a sense of 3 as we had when the bass drum was on the downbeat, but still pretty clear 3/4 time again. Okay, let's move to the final exercise. We're going to move the bass drum to the the fourth 16th note position. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a. And once again, because it's a 16th note subdivision on the we're going to start being pulled back into a sensation of 12/8. Not as strong a sensation as we were when we were on the E with the bass drum, but nevertheless, it's still going to have a sensation that there's something going on that wants to push us into hearing this in 12. Now, if you're looking at the music, then it's easier to kind of stay in 3. But if you don't look at the music and you just let the pattern happen, let your mind take over, you will start to be pulled in certain different directions depending on where the bass drum is. Okay, let's give this one a try. 16 times through the exercise. Here we go. Okay, great. Let's put it all together. So now we're going to do a 16 measure long phrase, 4 measures of each bass drum placement. So 4 measures of downbeats, straight into 4 measures of E, straight into 4 measures of and, straight into 4 measures of and we're going to do that 16 measures twice. Okay? 4 bars, 4 bars, 4 bars, 4 bars, each placement, and then we repeat that entire system again. That way we start to get used to moving the bass drum through this polymetric field. Okay? Let's give it a try. Here we go. Okay, good. We're going to stop here today with this exercise, but if you want to practice, you could practice going 2 bars each, 1 bar each, and then eventually combinations, moving the bass drum anywhere you want, whenever you want, while playing dotted eighth notes on the snare drum. So you're in 3, you're implying 3-note groupings, which might mean that you're sort of in 12, and your bass drum is free to move around eventually. So this really opens up a lot of phrasing opportunity. So this polymetric relationship exercise actually looks at reading, because we're looking at music until you get it figured out. And really, some of these exercises require the ability to read, because feeling them and sensing them sometimes doesn't allow for the whole picture to be understood. So reading. We're doing this with a metronome, so we're working on our time. We're working on our coordination without a doubt. I mean, this is a lot going on here. We're working on polymeters because that's the actual exercise itself. And In a way, you start to hear phrasing concepts. You start to be informed about how rhythms relate to each other, which then equates into phrasing concepts. And of course, anytime you're doing something with muscle memory, you're working on your groove. So, once again, this exercise cross-trains you in all 6 drum mantra elements: time, reading, coordination, polymeters, phrasing, and groove.